On the morning of September 26, 1983, most of the world was sleeping, completely unaware that humanity was just a few button presses away from total annihilation. This wasn't a movie plot. It was a terrifyingly real event, the details of which were hidden in declassified documents for decades. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the day the White House and the world almost ended. All started deep within a Soviet command center, Serpukhov 15. Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov was the duty officer, his eyes glued to a satellite early warning system. Suddenly, the sirens blared. The screen flashed a stark, terrifying message. One American Minuteman intercontinental ballistic missile was heading straight for the Soviet Union. The protocol was clear. He was to immediately report the launch to his superiors, who would then almost certainly order a massive retaliatory strike. This was the moment the Cold War was designed for, the point of no return. Within minutes, the system reported a second missile launch, then a third, a fourth, and a fifth. 5 missiles, all screaming towards Soviet soil. The computer system confirmed the launches with its highest level of confidence. Everyone in the bunker was panicking, shouting at Petrov to make the call. His superiors were on the line, demanding a report. The fate of the world literally rested on his shoulders. But Petrov felt something was wrong. Why would the Americans launch just 5 missiles? The first strike would surely involve hundreds, if not thousands, to overwhelm Soviet defenses. It didn't make sense. The system was new, and he knew it had bugs. Trust the computer, and you start World War III. Trust your gut, and you risk being wrong while your country is obliterated. He made a decision that would change history, picked up the phone, and reported a system malfunction. Back in Washington, the highest levels of the U.S. government were completely oblivious to the drama unfolding thousands of miles away. But they had their own set of fears and protocols for just such an event. Had Petrov reported the launch, the news would have rocketed up the chain of command, and within minutes, the U.S. would have detected a massive Soviet counterattack. The president would have been rushed from the Oval Office, down secret passages, to the Presidential Emergency Operations Center, or POC, the famous White House bunker. This bunker isn't just a room. It's a multi-level, shock-proof command center buried deep beneath the East Wing. It's designed to withstand a direct nuclear hit on Washington, D.C. Inside, the president and his top advisors would have had mere minutes to make the most horrifying decision in human history, or whether to launch America's own arsenal of nuclear weapons. This isn't speculation. We know this from recently declassified national security directives from the Reagan administration. These documents, codenamed Rex 84, outlined the continuity of government plans. They detailed how to evacuate key personnel, lock down the country under martial law, and command the military from underground fortresses like the PEOC and its even more secure counterpart site are hidden inside a mountain. The tension inside the PEOC would have been unbearable. Imagine the scene, screens showing incoming Soviet missiles, military aides shouting, targeting options, the red phone to Moscow, dead silent. The president, likely pale and shaken, would be presented with the nuclear football, the briefcase containing the launch codes and attack options. These options ranged from limited strikes to full-scale retaliation. A plan chillingly known as the Single Integrated Operational Plan, or SIOP. The SIOP was essentially a pre-programmed menu for Armageddon, targeting thousands of sites in the Soviet Union and China, guaranteeing the deaths of hundreds of millions of people. The fear inside the government wasn't just about a potential Soviet attack, it was also about losing control. The Rex 84 documents show a deep-seated fear of civil unrest in the event of a nuclear crisis. The plans included provisions for suspending the Constitution, rounding up potential dissenters, and putting the entire country under military control. The government was preparing not just for war with an external enemy, but also for a potential collapse of society at home. They had plans to keep a government in exile running, even if Washington was a crater of radioactive glass. While the president was in the POC, other key officials would be scrambled into the sky aboard the Doomsday plane, a modified Boeing 747 known as the E-4B Nightwatch. This flying command post is hardened against the electromagnetic pulse of a nuclear blast and can stay airborne for days with aerial refueling. Its job is to ensure that even if every command center on the ground is destroyed, America's leadership can still direct the war. The existence of these planes, these bunkers, and these detailed plans highlights a chilling reality. Nuclear war wasn't just a hypothetical threat for these leaders. It was a scenario they actively and meticulously planned for. They had drills, protocols, and secure locations ready to go at a moment's notice. The psychological pressure would have been immense. Decisions involving the lives of billions would have to be made in less time than it takes to order a pizza. There would be no time for debate, no time for reflection, only the cold, hard logic of mutually assured destruction. Launch or be destroyed. This was the doctrine that kept a fragile peace for decades. But on that day in 1983, it almost failed spectacularly. Let's go back to that Soviet bunker. Petrov stood his ground against his frantic colleagues, insisted it was a false alarm. His reasoning was simple but profound. The attack looked illogical. It was a hunch, a gut feeling against a multi-billion-ruble computer system, screaming that the end was nigh. It was disobeying direct orders, risking court-martial and disgrace. For what felt like an eternity, the bunker was filled with a tense silence, broken only by the hum of machines. Then, as the missiles should have been re-entering the atmosphere, ground-based radar showed nothing. The skies were clear. Petrov was right. An investigation later revealed the cause. Sunlight reflecting off high-altitude clouds had lined up perfectly with the satellite's orbit, tricking the sensors into thinking they were seeing the engine plumes of Minuteman missiles. A freak alignment of sunlight and clouds almost triggered a global nuclear holocaust. Petrov's superiors, relieved but also embarrassed by the system's failure and Petrov's insubordination, praised his cool head but quietly pushed him into early retirement. He was given a small pension and lived in obscurity for years. The world owed its existence to a man it didn't even know, a man who was reprimanded for saving it. The story wasn't made public until the late 1990s. When it finally came out, Stanislav Petrov was hailed as a hero. He received numerous international awards, but he always remained humble, insisting, "I was just in the right place at the right time." But his story, combined with the declassified documents about America's own doomsday plans, paints a terrifying picture of the Cold War. It shows us how close we came. Not because of aggressive leaders or intentional acts, but because of technical glitches, flawed systems, and the simple terrifying fact that both sides had their fingers on a hair trigger. The bunkers are still there. The doomsday planes are still on alert. The nuclear arsenals, while reduced, are still large enough to end civilization many times over. The story of September 26, 1983, is not just a fascinating piece of history. It's a stark reminder that the systems we build to protect ourselves can become the source of our greatest danger. It proves that in the nuclear age, the line between peace and annihilation can be as thin as a single sunbeam hitting a satellite sensor in just the right way. It's a sobering thought that our continued existence might have depended less on complex strategies and powerful weapons, and more on the quiet courage of one man who dared to trust his instincts over the machine. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into a day that almost wasn't our last. If you found this story as chilling and important as we did, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more hidden histories. Let us know in the comments what you think. Could you have made the same call as Stanislav Petrov? We'll see you in the next one.